What's going on, everyone? Thank you for downloading this special edition of the Retro Gamers. This is our E3 special where we step out of the past and into the present and possibly a little bit of the future. Larry here.
And Anthony here.
And what's going on? It's been a few weeks. Welcome back, and you're back for a special event.
Yes, I came back specifically just for this special event. So, I figured I was done traveling the world and needed to come back and talk a little E3 with you.
Excellent. And this is our annual E3 special, not part of the canon, I guess you can call it. But it's something that we like to do because we're still both gamers at heart. And this E3 was a good one. We're gonna go through each of the big three: Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. I know Ubisoft had theirs, Bethesda has theirs, and Square Enix. But of course, that's all gonna be part of these big three. Before we get into it, we're gonna start with Sony in a moment. Just overall, not necessarily saying who may have won, who may have lost. Just generally speaking, how do you feel about this year's E3?
I actually felt pretty good about it. I mean, there were some really solid announcements, some great trailers. I mean, and for some of the games, we've already known they've been in the works for a while, but just we got some really, really great gameplay for some of these, and just overall, I feel like every company has a good, solid. Just has a good solid library of what's coming out over the next over the next year or two.
Yeah.
So gaming was definitely well represented.
Yes, and we're going to start this one with Sony with the PlayStation, and we're just going to go through. We're going to hit on some of the games. We're not going to probably mention all of them, but we're going to hit on the big ones, the ones I thought were really good, the ones Anthony thought were really good. And, kind of our excitement as to what we're looking forward to. And let's jump right into it with Sony. Let's talk about, let's kind of just get it. First of all, and I know you were busy, so I get it. Don't get me wrong. Did you have a chance to watch the Sony press conference?
No, I did not watch the press conference. What I wound up looking up some of the trailers and gameplay trailers for some of the games that they announced, but I did not watch any E3 press conferences at all.
Fair enough.
I was a little too busy. I was a little too busy running around Italy,
circumventing the globe. So I watched.
Yep, that's me.
I watched all three of them. And so, this is when I talk about the actual press conference, I get it's my opinion. But, I'll kind of try and fill you in on what the press conferences look like. With Sony's was very weird. Sony went in this weird direction. They opened it up. It looked like about 100 people in what they kept calling like a preacher's tent, like one of those revivals, in this giant tent that a guy come out, play a banjo for what felt like 10 minutes. And then they went into the first trailer, which is the first game I want to talk about, which is The Last of Us Part 2. And so I'm still trying to, the banjo player was cool. Don't get me wrong. It was just very, I don't know. Sony's press conference to me was overall a little lackluster in my opinion. Not as over the top as Microsoft was. Not as probably interesting as Nintendo's was. Of the three, I thought Sony's presentation wasn't the best of the three, but the lineups, like we're going to talk about, like we're going to start off here, look tremendous. And again, we're going to start with The Last of Us Part 2. It was about an 11-minute trailer gameplay showing this game, which has been in development for about a year and a half or so at this point.
Right.
So December 2000.
Well, that's a healthy time. I mean,
I forgot how long ago they announced it. The Last of Us, starting off, was just your typical surviving post-apocalyptic America with, humans trying to survive and cannibals trying to kill you. And of course, this is the continuation. And we open up in a hoedown, if you will, with what looked like Glenn from The Walking Dead and Ellen Page, because she was the girl from The Last of Us. And, and then it's now I didn't Did you play the first one?
No, I actually have it. My cousin raved about it and told me I needed to play it, so I bought it when he was visiting me, and it's still sitting in the shrink wrap 8 months later.
Fair enough. So
I will get to it.
Yes,
I will get to it.
So I'm just trying to figure out like how it connects, like the first one and second one connects, but it opens up beautiful graphics with this game. They seem to have, which seems to be the theme this year, just took every actor and actress in Hollywood and just motion captured all of them.
Games are going that route now.
Yeah,
which is good and bad at the same time.
So, the interaction between Ellie and when she was talking to the guy at the bar, and then watching everyone dancing, and then watching when Dina, I guess that's the new love interest of Ellie, comes over. They start talking, they start dancing, they do a little smooching here and there, and then out of nowhere, it just turns into a free-for-all with Ellie just stabbing someone right in the throat and just killing someone with her bare hands practically.
Yeah, and I gotta say, even for a movie, like that would be an amazing transition. So that was definitely a nice, that was definitely a nice twist to the trailer. So kudos to the creators of that scene.
Yeah, it's gonna be dominant as far as the overall theme of the game. Like the first Last of Us was about when we say love, just meaning just how. In the first game, just having to bring Ellie, Joel trying to bring Ellie, save her, keep her alive, keeping himself alive. And it was that love between the two of them. Not a romantic love, just, just between two humans just trying to survive. This one is just hate. Ellie is out to destroy. And the graphics in this game are in your face. It's funny. When I did the podcast with Josh a couple weeks ago, talking about season 2, episode 1 of 13 Reasons Why on Netflix. Mm-hmm. We were talking about how that's in your face with suicide. And I'm like, yeah, you kind of have to be in your face to get the point across. And then like a couple days later, E3 happens, and I watch this trailer, and hi almighty, it is in your face. Violence, gore, I love it. I want more of it, and I'm definitely looking forward to The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I gotta say, like just watching some of the gameplay. I mean, yeah, graphic is like almost an understatement. I was watching in the clip somewhere, Ellie is crawling through the grass because part of the gameplay obviously is sneaking around because you don't want to get discovered, because if you get discovered, they're gonna run over and slaughter you. But she's watching this guy who's been hung up get friggin' disemboweled at the same time. And you just see the knife go, like you see the knife go in, and you just see like his entrails like fall out, and so they're definitely going all out for this one. Needless to say, I'm guessing it has an adult rating.
Probably, it's probably MA. And then with the press conference, then they took like a 20-minute break after they showed the trailer, because then they had to move like the 100 people in the revival tent into the main stage area, and then they continued on with, really, it was just trailer after trailer after trailer. There was no, the head of Sony coming out and talking about a game or anything like that. It was just very weird. It was just game after game after game, which is what we're about. It's about the game. It was just very kind of in your face.
Right.
Another game that, talking about with the gore factor turned up to 11. This one came out of nowhere. I didn't even know they were doing this. Resident Evil 2 is being remade for the PlayStation.
Yeah, and that was exciting news. I mean, considering the fact that a lot of games are getting the remake, I feel like video games are going the route that Hollywood went about maybe 10 years ago, where they're starting to remake, they were remaking old films. Now we're getting remakes of video games. And it's cool because, I think there's a younger generation of gamers now that did not play this on the original PlayStation. And let's be honest. I mean, you can argue that Resident Evil 2 is the best game in the series. So if any one of them was going to get a remake, this would be the one.
I agree, and I don't know if you would agree with me, seeing how you live in Hollywood, but I feel like it's a little different ball game when you remake a video game versus remaking a movie. Like, it drives me nuts when I see them remake a movie. I'm like, they ran out of ideas. There's no need to remake this movie. The original was perfect. But in video games, sometimes it's like, you know what? This fresh coat of wax on this game just makes me want to replay it.
Oh yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, just watching the trailer alone, like, it reminded me of when I did play the game the first time back in the late '90s, and it just makes me, to your point, it makes me want to play it again on a system like the PS4 with with the amazing graphics you can get out of it. I'm all in.
Absolutely. I gotta say this now. If E3, besides the games we're going to talk about, it really went to show that now is the best time to invest in 4K in some of these new systems, because these graphics are going to be off the chart. And look, I'm not saying graphics makes the game better, but Resident Evil 2, high res, doesn't have to be 4K, high res in the dark, better have a change of pants with you when you play.
Yeah, I mean, Resident Evil is always good at catching the scares. They really did catch you off guard in a lot of places. So, Resident Evil 2 does it very well in several ways. So, I agree with you. This in 4K is going to be an awesome game.
Another big game that was presented as a trailer. I'm going to mess up this name. Ghost of Tsushima. Nope.
Tsushima.
Tsushima.
Or Tsushima.
I'll take two.
No, Tsushima.
I'll take 2 eels and a yellowtail. Ghost of Tsushima,
yep.
Which is it's a basic hack and slash taking place during one of the dynasties over there in Asia.
During the Mongol invasion,
Mongol invasion. This, again, it's you just watched, kind of pull the curtain back, we just kind of watched the trailers before we started recording. This year, they're really not holding back. I mean, arms are getting cut off, heads are getting cut off, limbs, stabs, blood, guts. But I like the story. The story of this game looks really interesting.
Yeah, they're definitely going for, they're definitely playing up the realism in these games, which I'm all for, because I think it's one thing to make it look pretty, but I think the realistic aspect of it is actually really good. And this game specifically, I mean, watching this trailer, I have to say, it was probably one of the most beautiful trailers I've seen. Like, the game is gorgeous, like absolutely gorgeous. It's so picturesque, I guess, would be a good way to describe it. When you're walking through the fields and you're just seeing the horizon and just everything going on, and then of course you got the action parts of it where you're slaughtering people, which is fun as well. But just overall, I mean, it looks like an absolutely beautiful game, and I think it's going to be it's definitely going to be a hit for Sony.
What I loved about Ghost, talking about like the attention to detail, and if you watch the trailer, you are with your main character, you end up meeting up with this woman, then the two of you kind of team up, and basically it looks like you're off to rescue a monk, which you rescue the monk in the trailer, but then the female, I don't remember their names, and then the female character pretty much kind of turns on you. Not really. It's like now it was her mission to kill the monk. It's your mission to keep him alive. And now the two of you, which like were friends and probably still have some sort of bond, now have to fight each other. And then they show gameplay of the two of them battling, and it's on this open field with all these red flower petals on the ground. But when you move, just how the petals are spread out, your movement pushes them out of the way. It's that attention to detail, like you said, Anthony, that just made it just a moving work of art.
Yeah, no, and that's what it is. It's like the attention to detail is key in games like these, because it just it's kind of the way I feel about Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. When you play through that game, it's like that. It's so every little tiny detail was like thought of, and when you're going through it, it just feels and looks so amazing. And this game, I think I would buy it alone just just to wander through the lands and just, explore, basically.
Absolutely. Some other games, we're just going to rifle off some names. We're going to talk about in a moment here some other big names. But just to kind of throw out some names here, kind of give you a heads up what's coming out. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is coming out for the PlayStation. Sea of Solitude, which is a really good game originally, was good. NBA Live 19. Doom Eternal, that looks sick. And a game that...
Yeah, Dead or Alive 6.
Yeah, which is funny.
Another Dead or Alive game.
That trailer. Yeah.
I know, and yet.
Yeah, right. Trevor Saves the Universe, which is on PlayStation VR. Which one was that?
No. Actually, I was going to bring up Trevor Saves the Universe because I feel like if there's one thing Sony definitely was clear on, or at least to me was clear on at E3, it's that they're really not putting a lot of stock into the PlayStation VR because they only to my knowledge, they only announced 2 games. And Trevor Saves the Universe seems to be the more entertaining of the 2. It's actually from the creators of Rick and Morty.
Yes.
Which makes it interesting. But yeah, I don't see much hope for the PlayStation VR.
You know what? I'm gonna disagree with you, only because I do have the PlayStation VR, and it is really cool. But there are a couple other games because, there is another game actually coming out which I'm really interested in. It's called Ghost Giant for the PlayStation VR, and you pretty much, for lack of a better term, you're playing God, but you play as a ghost giant. And
I like that.
And you pretty much, help these creatures kind of get through their lives, help them raise a bridge or, clear a field or something like that. That looks really cool in VR. And then there are other games that aren't fully in VR, but have a VR aspect to it. Like the one I'm looking forward to is called Tetris Effect, which is Tetris, but it's going to have a PlayStation VR element to it, which, yes, I am going to compare possibly like Tetris on the Virtual Boy.
Oh, well, then that game is doomed.
I like the trailer, though, for Tetris
I think that goes without saying.
The
the trailer for Tetris Effect looked really good. Because you know me, I'm a big Tetris fan, so I'm all about giving. I will buy Tetris for my PlayStation so I can play it, Tetris Effect. So you don't have to convince me.
Absolutely, and I just like how they talked about, which is
just the VR aspect. I'm not too thrilled about.
I just like how they were talking about these studies, which are all true studies about what's called the Tetris Effect. And how it can help PTSD and all that. So it's all fun stuff. Let's get back to the big name games. There's one.
Well, no, let's before we get back to the big before you get back to the big name games, because I know which one you're going to go to. Okay. I just want to point this one out because I thought this was really interesting when I was looking up all the games that were covered and the release dates. There's one game on here which first made me laugh, but then I found it very interesting. And it's do you remember the series Just Dance, which were those dancing simulator games?
Yes.
Okay. So they announced Just Dance 2019. That's going to be coming out on Sony, Nintendo, and Xbox. Right? So it's going to be on all 3 of those. However, the interesting thing about this game, and this is why I'm bringing it up, is because they're also going to be releasing it on Xbox 360 and the Nintendo Wii. Not the Wii U, but the Wii.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't hear about
and I was
that.
like, wow. I was like, okay. Yeah, I thought that was the closest we can get to retro from E3 this year. But I was like, wow. I go, because, the Wii came out in 2005. I'm like, so the fact that, they're Just Dance is going to be released on that, I just thought was really interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, I got to say. That's real interesting. And if you want to see something cool, you got to watch the opening of Ubisoft's press conference because it's a whole Just Dance 2019 routine. And it was really cool, actually, I have to say.
Oh, okay, good to know. All right, now let's get back to the big ones.
Let's get back to the big ones. Let's talk about one that a lot of people have been waiting for, starring that guy from The Walking Dead, if you will. The game is called Death Stranding, and this game looks
Norman Reedus
beautiful.
Yeah, and it's also been in development for a while now.
Oh God, has it ever? This is the baby, if you will, of Hideo Kojima, we all know, was from Konami, and he had a really bit of a falling out with Konami. He's the one that basically created Metal Gear, especially Metal Gear Solid, and made that game what it is today. So this is his first game pretty much on his own, and he's hitting a home run with Death Stranding.
Yeah, he's definitely taking his time with it. And again, it's one of those open world games, but what's really interesting about this is that it has two different worlds that you go through, the living world and the dead world. So when you die, you actually transition to another world, apparently. So it's very, very interesting. So far, all the news leading up to E3 was pretty solid for this, and then the gameplay that they showed was just beautiful.
It's crazy, and the star factor, the star power. Again, they brought these actors and actresses in. They just stuck those dots on their faces, and they scanned them, and it looks like just a movie you can play. Norman Reedus is in it. Mads Mikkelsen, if I'm pronouncing that right. Leia Seydoux, I know I'm not pronouncing that right. Lindsay Wagner, who I don't even know when the last time she worked. She's in this game.
Yep.
And Guillermo del Toro is actually going to be in it as well.
I know, that was kind of the surprise for me. I was like, Oscar winning Guillermo del Toro. And if just a side note, if you have not seen The Shape of Water, you really need to go out and see it right now. Absolutely amazing film. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely star power in this game. There's everything about it looks fantastic. So I just really can't wait. Can't wait to see this one. See it. Can't wait to buy it.
Honestly, and this would have been the second go around between Kojima and Reedus, because remember, Norman Reedus originally was supposed to be in the now canceled Silent Hills sequel. So I guess this is their way of getting them back together. Besides,
Guillermo del Toro was also in that.
That's true, yeah.
Was supposed to be in that.
Besides the visuals of these games that we're talking about, the music is just hauntingly gorgeous in some of them. The one in this trailer for Death Stranding, it's like I kind of want to go out and just get these already on, download them on iTunes. The music is it matches so perfectly.
Yeah, and music is really important in games these days. I mean, you really have to. I mean, it's just all about matching it. Matching the feel, the look. It's like, video games are movies now, and when you make a successful video game, they make as much as, if not more, money than what a movie makes at theatrical release. I mean, you look at games like Grand Theft Auto 5, or you look at your Halos, your Gears of War, and stuff like that. Like they post like $500 million in sales or more sometimes. So Absolutely. It's like. You gotta treat them like movies, and they do now, and it's phenomenal.
When you were in Japan, you said you were at Tower Records, and there's a whole section on just video game music, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the more surprising things when I went to two surprising things in Japan. One, Tower Records still exists, and two, when you go in there, there's a whole section of just video game soundtracks, and I'm not just talking about like. Retro ones, like I was interested in. Like I picked up the Castlevania soundtrack, which was awesome. But like they had like every Final Fantasy soundtrack except the one I wanted, which was 7. And like, but games leading up to today. So like, and it's just amazing. That's a thing over there. Like people will buy the actual soundtracks for video games.
You just made a good point, which I want to touch on right now. And I don't mean to dive away from the music we're talking about, but what they did not announce, Final Fantasy VII, didn't hear a peep about it. I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, I'm guessing the work behind it is just taking a little more time than planned.
As long as they're still working on it.
But that's okay, because I'll buy it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, too. I'm kind of talked into it without even really seeing it. Final Fantasy VII. I kind of keep looking at it when I'm at Game On, but I'm like, you know what? Let me, as much as it's great to play the original, let's put a nice shine on that and play what the new one hopefully will look like.
Yeah, and they didn't. I'm surprised they didn't have any news on it.
Not a word. But we'll see what happens as the year goes on. But the closest we're going to get to Final Fantasy VII will be Kingdom Hearts 3, which a lot of people are waiting on. The long-awaited sequel to, obviously, Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. And there were a couple of different trailers, depending on what press conference was airing. Right now we're talking Sony, so we'll talk about its version of Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer, which featured the world of Frozen.
Yay!
It almost looked like that was the main focus of Kingdom Hearts 3 is Frozen and whatever her Princess Ice or whatever her name is. That she's
what's her name? Hold on.
Ellie? Nope, different.
Elsa.
I don't know if she's going to be the kind of, if Frozen's going to be the main world or she's the make or break in this game. I'm not sure, but with the Pixar.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, the whole concept of Kingdom Hearts is that you travel to different Disney worlds. So I just think they were showcasing Frozen as one of those worlds. Gotcha. And Frozen, since it's so ridiculously popular, they obviously that was going to be appealing to people.
And what's great, especially on the PS4 with Kingdom Hearts 3, with the Pixar movies, I mean, it's the closest you get to actually playing those movies. I mean, PlayStation 2 graphics were great. PS3, the upgrades, the graphics were great, and I'm sure there were Pixar levels in those first two games, I think. But this one's got Frozen, Wreck-It Ralph, Tangled. What's that other one?
Toy Story, Monsters Inc.
No, I'm trying to think of the one.
Pirates of the Caribbean. I think I saw
with the redheaded girl, the Irish redheaded girl. Braided?
Oh, Brave.
I think I saw that one in there too. I've been waiting for this game for a long time, and Sony's got the best bundle when it comes to Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh, yeah. What was it called? The Kingdom Hearts Mega Mix or something like that? I don't know. I bought it. I have it.
Oh, you already did it?
Yeah. I mean, it's been out for a while.
Oh, okay. What they're doing is, for those who don't own it, if you pre-order Kingdom Hearts 3 right now on the PlayStation Network, you'll have Kingdom Hearts 3 when it's available for in December of this year, but you get immediate access to PS4 versions of Kingdom Hearts 1.5, Kingdom Hearts 2.8, Kingdom Hearts, 1.7 Mega Mix, and then I think a 9.3 Final, whatever they are. Those two offshoots, though, you will get automatically as instant downloads. So then you get all three games.
Awesome. And
I think it's all three for $100, which I don't think is that bad, especially if you're going to get those two graphically upgraded.
No, that's pretty good. So, I'm still dead set though on completing. I'm still dead set on completing Chain of Memories on my PlayStation because I feel like I'm close to ending it, so I can finally move on to Kingdom Hearts 2.
You got till December. Oh, Kingdom Hearts 2. All right. Yeah, I got. Yeah,
which I've never played.
I got to the 100 Acre Woods, and then that was the last I played of Kingdom Hearts.
Of all the places to get stuck, you got stuck in Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, Bob.
I don't understand you.
Cannot wait to see Christopher Robin on a side note. And
oh, yeah, that looks good.
So, and there's a ton of other games. Go back, watch the Sony press conference. I thought it was a little dull, but the games look really cool. Figure we'll save this. There's a couple other games that are coming out for the other systems. We'll talk about them over there. But I want to talk about, I know you want to talk about, the big one, Spider-Man.
Yeah, and a big one it is because first off, it's exclusive to Sony. It won't be on any other console, which is the first thing. So yeah, you need a PlayStation 4 if you want to play it. And two, holy cow, there's nothing about this game that doesn't look awesome already. I mean, the gameplay is the gameplay looks great. The graphics are absolutely out of this world. They announced, I think, 3 of the villains, which you're going to be playing against, and I'm trying to remember.
They announced.
Oh, did they announce more than that? Nice.
Yes. So it's
nice. The one I saw just named 3 of them. I had no idea that it was the Sinister Six. That's even cooler.
But meanwhile, it's a Sinister Six, but I only knew 5 people. Who's Mr. Negative or whatever?
Mr. Negative. Oh yeah, he's a newer guy.
Well, he's in the game.
I can't. Yeah, who did he replace in the Sinister Six?
They showed in no particular order because I don't remember it. Rhino, Vulture, Electro, Scorpion.
Yeah,
that's 4. Mr. Negative.
Lizard.
Who?
Right. Was the lizard there?
Maybe.
Was Sandman there?
No. Okay.
Mysterio?
This is going to be the I don't know, but they should use him since he's going to be the villain in the new movie.
Well, I'm sure they were making this game long before the new movie was planned.
And this is
But anyway, bottom line is Sinister Six. And they've had a changing roster. They've changed rosters in the comic book, so no big deal there. But yeah, Mr. Negative is a character I'm not familiar with because I haven't read comics for a long time. Even though I'm buying them again, I still have to sit down and read them. But just the game itself, like you watch the gameplay for this one, I mean, it kind of excites me the way the original Spider-Man did when it came out on the first PlayStation, because that game was awesome. And now we're talking like 20 years later.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the PlayStation 4 version. I mean, it's just like soup to nuts. Everything about it just looks off the wall. So, and given the fact that Spider-Man is pretty popular again, thanks to Spider-Man: Homecoming and Tom Holland's awesome portrayal of the web slinger, I'm definitely looking forward to this game. Probably more than any other game that was shown at E3.
Yeah, this was, and I think this was the one, if I remember correctly, this is the one that closed the Sony press conference.
And rightfully so, because I think that's their biggest game that's coming out the soonest.
Mm-hmm. That
looks the best, because that game drops September 7th of this year.
Yeah, no, it's coming up quick.
Yep, so cannot wait.
It's going to bug me who that 6
bug. Is that pun intended?
Rhino, Electro.
That's okay. Well, you know what? We'll give you some time to sift through that. But as we wrap up the Sony recap here from E3, so you have fun figuring out who that 6th member is.
Will do.
All right, Larry, I think it's time to continue with our E3 coverage. I know you didn't. You're still searching for the 6th member of that Sinister Six, and one day I hope you find him.
I remember.
But until then,
they never announced it. That's what it was. It's a mystery.
There's your answer. Okay. Well, I'm so glad you've been disappointed. But moving on to our favorite company, which everybody seems to point out to us, which is Nintendo. Although I haven't been streaming Nintendo lately, I've been streaming a lot more Sony PlayStation these days,
which is good.
But yeah, which is good because the PlayStation was awesome. Anyway, so Nintendo at E3, it's typical Nintendo. They usually only announce a handful of games, and they're always going to be first-party games for them more than anything else. But of course, they always manage to announce some really heavy hitters. And of course, I mean, the big one to talk about, and we'll just talk about it first to get it out of the way, is the Super Smash Brothers game that will be releasing on the Nintendo Switch, and actually coming out this year too.
Yeah,
in time for Christmas.
Absolutely, Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, which will feature every character to ever appear in any Smash Brothers game, from the first one all the way up to the most recent one. So all of them will be in this game, which I think
it's something it's like 65 characters.
Something like that. Well, add 66 because the newest character to the roster will be Ridley from Metroid, who was a villain in Smash Brothers Melee, I think. One of them.
Interesting.
So he's going to be the new playable character. But they have, on top of that, they have the Miis are back, but there's 8 different variations of the Miis. So you got, they kind of cheat off of that a little bit. There's, you have, what's his name, from Kid Icarus?
Pit?
Pit, Dark Pit. There's a couple what do they call them? Beta, Alpha, Omega, something characters. So there's a couple of like dark versions or alternate versions. Like, for example, you have Princess Peach, but I can't remember what it's called. The alternate version is Daisy. So then you play as Daisy, and Daisy has a little bit of a different gameplay than Peach. So that it does make it different enough.
Yeah, but Daisy and Peach are 2 different characters.
They are, but it's Princess Peach is like Omega character or whatever it's called. I forgot what they call it. It was like an umlaut after the number.
Okay.
But in any event, to have each and every one of the characters in this game, I think is really awesome. It kind of brings it all together. I heard some people kind of complaining, saying, maybe it's just their way of getting out of having to bring in new characters. I don't think so. I think the fact that you're pretty much merging now at this point every previous Smash Brothers game into one. And they even said, not all these characters are unlocked in the beginning. You have to play through the game, but they said, the feel of it doesn't feel like it's going to take forever to unlock all of them. They kind of unlock naturally, is how they said it. I'm looking forward to Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it for a couple of reasons. One, because Super Smash Brothers is like one of their strongest franchises, and their games are always great. But two, when the online element comes into play for this game, it's going to be epic.
Oh yeah, big time. I think it's up to. One of the things they announced, you will be able to use a GameCube controller. So they're going to bring that.
Oh, thank you.
Yep, they're going to bring that over.
That's awesome. Because I think Melee was probably like the best one.
I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't crazy about the series until the ones that came out on the Wii U and the 3DS. I don't know why it took me so long to finally get into it, but I wasn't crazy about those first few. Not saying that they're bad, I just never got into it.
No, I love the first two, and the one. I mean, I love the one on the Wii U. Don't get me wrong, but those the N64 one and the GameCube one were great.
So they're going to have every character. They're going to have a lot of assist trophies. One of the things that everyone's complaining about, again, I don't know why, but I read that, they say every character. I guess some people took it literally as like every character in the Nintendo universe, because the one that's missing as a playable character is Waluigi. As far as I know, Waluigi was never a playable character in any of the other games. He will be an assist trophy.
Well...
But
I was gonna say maybe they'll surprise you with like DLC or something with him.
Maybe.
Don't rule him out yet.
No. But there's like a petition going on the internet, like save Waluigi or something like that.
My God, 65 characters and people still aren't happy. I don't know what you tell them at this point.
I don't get it. But the gameplay looks cool, and depending on how you play the game is balanced. Whether it's one-on-one, the game's a little more balanced. And if you're playing with multiple characters in the game, of course the graphic overhaul looks fantastic and just straightforward. It's going to be a fun time. Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. Look for it on the Switch, and curious to see how the capability of bringing it on the go, how it's going to interact with other players, like if there's a couple of Switch systems together. So we'll see how that works, how that comes about.
Yeah, but definitely a big announcement. So Super Smash Brothers is going to
and literally huge. It was a big announcement because it took up it was half of the Nintendo Direct E3 segment. So it took up a lot of time, pretty much the whole second half of the broadcast, which is worth it. Don't get me wrong.
That's not. I was gonna say that's not surprising at all, because Nintendo usually stakes their claim to one major game, and then they do a handful of other small ones. So no surprise that the big one this year is is Super Smash Brothers. Last year it was Super Mario Odyssey.
Yes,
It was all about Super Mario Odyssey.
Some other games they showed a little bit more.
Amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Games which they already did a little bit of press about it, but they kind of went into a little bit more. The Pokemon games, Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, which are coming out on Nintendo Switch. Basically, the first time on a home console we're getting that adventure game that Pokemon is famous for on the Game Boy games is now coming to the Switch. That looks really cool. I'm looking forward to that, especially that Pokeball. I don't know if you saw the Pokeball controller for this game.
No, I did not, and I'm sure you'll buy it.
Oh, it's cool because what happens is the game is designed to be played with one controller. Like they tried to make it as easy as possible. And when you play the game with the one controller, you gotta, there's a lot, there's movement. So there's gonna be some, like you flick your wrist to throw the Pokeball, all the stuff. There's a 2-player option for the first time. But with the Pokeball controller, it looks like a Pokeball, obviously. And what you do is you can actually, I guess, capture a Pokemon into that Pokeball. And you can bring it with you. And there's a little speaker on it. So if you shake it, you can hear the Pokemon inside. And also, these Pokemon games, Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, will connect to Pokemon Go. And you can actually transfer characters from Pokemon Go to Let's Go, which I think is really cool as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's cool. What's interesting about that announcement is that Pokemon Go is still a thing.
Oh, yeah. It's still going, shockingly.
Oh, yeah. I deleted mine like a year ago.
Now, this was Nintendo
no time for it.
Nintendo was shortest of the three, so they didn't have as many games out as we mentioned before. Just Dance 2019.
But what was interesting also is that when they announced this is a big game on other systems, but when they announced Fortnite for the Nintendo Switch,
yep, that came out of nowhere.
That came out of nowhere, but it was also available immediately.
Yes, and it's free.
Yeah, and within a couple of, I think they said within a couple of days, they've already gotten over 2 million downloads of Fortnite.
Fortnite is, personally, I'll take PUBG over Fortnite. We'll talk about that during the Microsoft segment. But Fortnite is one of the most watched games on Twitch, one of the most watched games online. So why not bring it to the Switch? And I know a couple friends of mine who have already started playing Fortnite on Nintendo, and they said the game holds up just as strong on the Switch as it does on the other consoles.
All right, good. I'm going to have to download that.
Yep. Some other another big game that came out of nowhere, in my opinion, Super Mario Party.
Yes, and boy, oh boy, can I not wait for this one. I am a Super Mario Party nut, and I have not played one in a very long time.
It's been a while, I think, even since they had a last Super Mario. I mean, not Super Mario, Mario Party. The last one they released was on the 3DS, and that was just taking the top 100 minigames and just throwing them together. This is going to be an original.
I don't think the Wii U did not get a Mario Party game, correct?
It may have.
Okay.
I think you got one. Yeah.
My problem is
or something.
Yeah. Mario Party was one of my favorite games playing on the N64 because you would come over, my friends would come over, we would play it. My younger sister and her friends loved it, so we were always playing Mario Party all the time. And then when it came out on the GameCube, by that point I had already kind of moved out on my own, and so it didn't have the same value to me, and I kind of fell off of the Mario Party wagon. But I still go back and play the old N64 ones, and I started buying the GameCube ones, and I don't have the ones for Wii yet, but I'm slowly amassing all the other Mario Party games because they're just fun. They're fun and they're mindless, and they're the type of games you play when you don't want to if you don't want to really invest a ton of time into a long story mode game.
Very true. And shockingly, I heard the most sought out Mario Party game to find in box is Mario Party 3. I don't know why that one specifically.
Well, because Mario Party 3 came out towards the end of the N64, so it wasn't bought as much. So it was rare.
Probably. What's very cool, I don't know if you saw any of the trailer part of this. I know you say you didn't watch any of the press conferences, but what's awesome about Super Mario Party, this game, if you want to talk about on-the-go multiplayer fun, Super Mario Party is the game to be. Because, first of all, you can play with multiple screens. So playing with multiple screens means you can get more people to play. What's also cool is they showed this in the video. I don't know if you saw this. One of the mini games, if you have two switches that you're playing, you put them together to expand the mini game level. So now it's across two Switch screens. But not only that.
Oh, wow.
Hold on. Not only that, you don't have to necessarily put them side by side. You can arrange it however you want. They actually off-centered the two switches. And they just kind of ran their finger across it. And then that's what linked the Switch systems. And then they played the minigame. It was like a tank minigame. So it was like really almost like, here, I'm going to show in. I know it's a little bit of a visual. But go and watch the thing on whatever it's called.
YouTube?
Yeah. It's like, here's one switch. Here's another switch. And like they had it like this. Like it was way off
really
center. Cool. And it linked. So the only part, you know what I mean? You'll know when you go watch a video. That I thought was amazing. Okay. And that's just one mini game. So who knows what the rest of them are going to look like.
Wow. Exactly. So definitely very excited about that. No question.
And then yeah.
No, I was just going to say, and then moving on a little bit, the other game that I thought was interesting that they announced was Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Yep,
because Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem is an RPG series that usually is exclusive to Japan. They've only released like a couple of Fire Emblem games here in the U.S. So the fact that they're releasing one on the Switch is actually a big deal because I honestly, the last Fire Emblem we got, I think may have been like 10 years ago.
A lot of them came out on the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, right. But for a console, for a regular console, they don't. I think there was only like maybe one,
probably
one or two. So that was actually a nice little surprise when they announced that one.
Definitely. Then they got the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is coming out. FIFA 19, like we mentioned.
Well, that's an expansion, to the Xenoblade game. Yep.
Tales of Vesperia, Wolfenstein Youngblood. Here's a game that I just downloaded the demo. I haven't played it yet, but I got to try it out. Octopath Traveler.
And that game, like I looked at the trailer and it looks really interesting.
It's like a 16-bit. It's kind of a throwback to a 16-bit RPG.
Yes,
which I like.
And it's 8 different characters with eight different stories.
Yep.
So there's definitely like I don't want to say replay value, but like there's some depth to the game because you can play 8 different stories.
And that was mostly Switch stuff. They really didn't get into 3DS. They talked about other things like Splatoon 2, the DLC on that one, but really not too much else. Not a lot on the 3DS, which gets me a little worried. Not much love for their handheld. Nothing on the N64 Classic. Nothing on the online that's coming out. So, but they usually do another big direct during the summer. So we may get another one in a couple of months. That may be, well, they'll have to explain something because online's coming out in September.
So they really need to tell us stuff about that.
On a side note, real quick, just to let you know, and it just came out this week, definitely go check out one of the new games on the Switch, Arcade Classic Donkey Kong. The original arcade is now available for download on the Switch, and we're talking OG with the Pie Factory, which has only been released one other time on the home console, on the 3DS, and that's not even available anymore. So go check that out. $8, well worth it. And I will be downloading that. And also, they're keeping a track of the leaderboard online, too. Yes, that's all of them. They all do that, yeah. So Nintendo was what it was. They don't do a conference live. It was, that pre-recorded, which is fine. It was very cool to watch. Very Nintendo-like. And next week, I got a story for you that we'll talk about when we get back to the regular show about the Nintendo store in New York City and a bomb threat that wasn't discovered until 2 months later. So that will be a fun teaser for next week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ooh. All right. Can't wait to hear that one.
But Nintendo was good. I feel it was the second best of the three, which then makes you know what I felt was the best press conference of the three. And we're going to talk about that next here on our E3 Special 2018. All right, so we are going to start to wrap things up here with one final press conference. And in my opinion, the press conference that won E3, and that's going to be Microsoft. Their list of games, they had over 50 games.
I'll take your word for it.
They had over 50 games.
Well, then they definitely win for quantity.
Yeah, one after another. But they had some, they had some live gameplay. They had, some presence, if you will, on stage. No hardware. No one really had any hardware. The only hardware that Microsoft mentioned was that they are working on the next-gen console. That's really no definitive dates or anything like that, but we'll probably start hearing things in, a year or two?
Yeah, and you know what? Kudos to them for actually announcing that they are working on a next-gen console because they're just trying to get a little bit ahead of the curve. So, because everybody, I'm sure everybody's going to start fighting for another gen. I don't know if we're ready for another gen, considering how long the 360 and the PS3 went for. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's a little premature for another next gen. But hey, you know what? They can do what they want.
Well, a lot of times the next
we'll
gen,
still buy them.
Next gen comes out and the current gen is still there, so there may be a process. But Microsoft definitely won, and they kicked off their broadcast with the only game that can kick off a Microsoft press conference. We're talking a game, Halo Infinite, Halo 5, if you will, or Halo 6, I guess at this point.
Yep. And Halo is one of those series that I never really got into, but I understood the appeal because everybody I knew played that.
Oh, yeah. Halo is one of the best games. I remember watching just over and over again all these Halo 2 tournaments. There used to be a channel. I don't know if you remember this channel. Mm-hmm. There used to be like when here in New York we have Cablevision. And before you move, I think it was before you moved out to L.A., when they just started going HD, they had all these like special HD channels, and there was a video game channel which always showed gameplay, usually like complete run-throughs, make it look like a show, but they always showed Halo 2 tournaments. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Nice.
So Halo Infinite, that's going to be, and there's a ton of games. We are not going to mention every game in Microsoft, and a lot of them are cross, from other systems we mentioned, like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, like Resident Evil 2, Just Dance, things like that. We're going to try and focus on some of the bigger ones I thought stuck out, ones Anthony thought stuck out, and first, which no real gameplay, no real information other than it's coming out next year, but a series that I am so happy to see come back, and a series that I think is going to be awesome when it comes back. But we are getting a brand new Battletoads in 2019.
Yes, another. As if the old Battletoads game wasn't hard enough. Now we're going to get, and probably even harder one on the Xbox, which will be awesome.
And I still stand by Battletoads Double Dragon. I love that crossover game.
I'll take your word for it.
What, you never played it? Oh, the game was great.
No, I don't think I ever played it.
Oh, fantastic. Let's talk about a game I know you're looking forward to, which, again, I kind of didn't realize they were making a new one. Devil May Cry 5.
Yes, the Devil May Cry series was one of my favorite series on I want to say PlayStation 2 at the time.
That first one was amazing.
That first one, I could not put that game down. I was obsessed with it when it first came out. And then the sequel kind of changed it up a little bit, and not for the better. It was a little bit of a struggle to get through, but then the third one kind of came back to the roots of the first one, and that was awesome as well. I never got around to playing the fourth one, but
okay. Well,
but hands down, one of the best gaming franchises out there, and the trailer for this one looks amazing. And again, now I've been saying that about a lot of the trailers we've seen, but if you watch the trailer for this one, it just looks like nonstop balls to the wall. They've definitely captured the spirit of Devil May Cry in this game, and it looks like it's just going to be a blast, start to finish.
You may have a 2-player multiplayer in this because you have the 2 protagonists. I'm assuming some sort of relative of Dante, the original Dante, right? The original protagonist from the first movie.
Yeah.
You got the new girl. I can't remember her name. She seems to be like a gadget gearhead. She's in it. The gameplay, again, graphics look great. And, of course, that kicker right at the end when we do see, who I'm assuming is Dante, zooming in on his bike right there at the tail end of the trailer.
Yeah, oh, yeah. No question. So we're definitely going to, you can't have Devil May Cry without Dante, so.
One of them did, right? I think it was 2, didn't it?
Okay.
Oh, did it?
I think that might have been one of the problems.
Another world premiere. Every time you watch the Microsoft trailer, you'll hear like world premiere or console exclusive. They had like 15
world premiere everything.
Yeah, pretty much. They had maybe 15 console exclusive world premieres. They were really bringing them all out. Another game, part of a great, tremendous series. Forza is coming back with Forza Horizon 4. This time it's taking place more over in England. And what's awesome about Forza Horizon 4 is that it's this open multiplayer world where I believe, if I understood it correctly, there's no, it's all street racing, but there's really no computer-driven cars. If you see another car on the road, it is being controlled by somebody else.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that's kind of crazy.
Not only that, but the seasons, or the weather, seasons, you can say seasons, have this huge effect on the game. You could be driving around in the summertime, but when it's winter, the lake will freeze over. So now you're able to, go out on the lake and find other parts of the board to drive through. And all these different missions and races. But it's just this giant, massive open world, which actually has kind of got me. I mean, I'm not into racing games. I'm not into car games. But this one kind of looked like it almost got me hooked.
Well, I mean, it sounds like they're taking elements from let's say a Grand Theft Auto type of thing or whatnot by opening up the world to more, just more adventure. Because I mean, racing games usually are pretty black and white. You're on a track, you race, and you place. I'm the fact that they're offering an opportunity for you to expand beyond that, it's actually something really interesting and something we haven't really seen in a racing game before, I guess. Mm-hmm. So, it sounds impressive.
The open world reminds me of Burnout Paradise, but the fact that every car that you see is being controlled by a player, that part's really cool. So. Yeah,
that part's really cool too. I mean, obviously you have to be hooked up to the internet in order for that. Hooked up online. Obviously. But if you have, as I say, if you have an Xbox One, I mean, naturally you should be. So,
another game that was coming out and a popular series on the Xbox, but I thought was really cool as a twist. I kind of wish it was a game on the Xbox, but it's going to be more of a mobile game. You see the saw, that gun saw coming through the wall that everyone knows is Gears of War, and the Sprocket logo and everything like that. But then out through the wall busts a pop vinyl of the Gears of War characters because the pop vinyls are getting their own mobile game called Gears Pop, which I think is really cool. That's coming out later. But then they broke out the big guns with Gears of War 5.
Oh yeah, and of course, Gears of War is one of their biggest money makers. So naturally, it would make sense that they were going to announce another one.
Yeah, Gears of War. I mean, I never really got into it. I played the first one a lot. I didn't get into the more recent ones. I know a lot of our friends play Gears a lot. It's got a really good following. I think they're making a movie out of it. But Gears of War 5 looks like, again, it kind of goes off on its own. tries to stray from the pact, but it's going to look really sweet. The graphics, again, look familiar. Like I said, now's the time to invest in 4K with a lot of these games because it's looking really, really sweet. Another one I want to mention real quick, talking about actors in video games, Crackdown 3, I thought was an hysterical trailer because Terry Crews is in it, and I think Terry Crews is amazing and very, very funny.
Oh, yeah.
That one looked good. It almost looked like an a giant Old Spice commercial because he's playing that character and during the Old Spice commercials. So that's pretty cool. And you play as him in Crackdown 3.
Yeah, that looks like it's going to be entertaining for sure.
Yeah. Another, which I love it when the game comes out of nowhere. More of a, I guess you can call it a DLC. I don't know if maybe you consider it a sequel. But basically we're getting more gameplay for, I think, a very underrated game, Cuphead. I don't know, have you played Cuphead?
Oh, yeah, I read about that. No, I haven't played Cuphead, but the reviews for it are absolutely amazing, and I'm definitely interested in it.
Game's fantastic. I absolutely love it. It's on Xbox One. So you're going to get this new DLC, I guess we'll call it for lack of a better term. New levels, new story, new character you can play. So I'm going to look forward to that with the new Cuphead.
Very cool.
Just real quick to kind of throw out some more games that we're talking about. Just Cause 4 is looking pretty sweet. Metro Exodus. You got to watch the trailers. Talking about the visual doesn't do it justice. You got to watch these trailers. It looks really sweet. Update to PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Now, and I know you're not a player of Battlegrounds. I've been playing PUBG for a while. And it's kind of the one that started, I don't care what Fortnite says, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is the one that started this whole battle royale of gaming, where it's 100 players, all for themselves, or maybe squads against each other. PlayerUnknown Battleground has a lot of updates, a lot of maps, a lot more on the PC version than the Xbox version. Xbox didn't get much love until recently, when PUBG finally got a new map. But at E3, there was another map. The Sandhawk map was introduced, along with some tweaks in the gameplay. War mode, which is 50 on 50, which is going to be ridiculous.
Ooh.
And then this teaser of what looks like a snow level, a snow map, which if they do that right, that's going to be awesome. So be on the lookout.
That could be fun.
Oh, yeah. Friend me on on Xbox, more 365. I'm normally playing Xbox One PUBG with the co-host of The Better Half, Frank. And it's very funny because Frank hasn't figured out how to play the game yet. So he'll just jump on a motorcycle and then just for some reason jump off randomly. It's hysterical. So check us out. PUBG is going to be really sweet. Is there any other... Oh, well, let me say this. Any other games that you saw, Ant, from Microsoft that you're really interested in?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, aside from the ones that are already coming out on Sony that we talked about, like, Kingdom Hearts 3 looks...
That's huge. Because that's the
interesting.
first Kingdom Hearts game to come out on something other than Sony. Well...
Yeah, Sony had the exclusive rights up until now. So it's interesting that now Microsoft also had the rights. Resident Evil 2, of course, is coming out on Xbox as well. Like you said, I am very excited about Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Yes.
So the next game in the Tomb Raider series.
It was funny.
Looks absolutely fantastic.
When we were talking in the beginning, maybe it was when you were watching a trailer, actually, for The Last of Us Part 2, you were talking about how they were dropping the F-bomb and everything like that. The Shadow of Tomb Raider, she's dropping some F-bombs as well. It's pretty weird to hear Lara Croft swearing like that.
Well, you know what? If I were her and doing what she does for the last 20 years, I'd be dropping those F-bombs too.
Anything else on there that you saw that you like?
Off the top of my head, not really. I mean, Cyberpunk 2077, which I don't think we haven't talked about yet, but that looks like it's actually, you know what? Let's hold on that one. I think that's a good one to close out with because that one just looks ridiculous. There's a little 16-bit game called Tunic, which I watched the trailer for, and it doesn't seem like it's getting a lot of. It doesn't look like it's getting a lot of trailer watches. But I have to say, it's got a very nice, and for us, of course, this works out nicely. It's got a very nice retro feel, almost like we're doing like it's kind of like an RPG or action adventure RPG type of thing, like Zelda, Link to the Past type of style.
Very Zelda.
And that in and of itself made it really interesting to me. So Tunic is one of the ones I'm definitely looking forward to.
Okay. Another game that I thought was really cool that has a very good crossover element is a game called Jump Force. Now, the title itself doesn't give anything away, but if you are an anime fan, you're going to go crazy over this because we're mixing One Piece with Dragon Ball Z with Nitaro. Nitaro. So those three worlds are coming together, which looks like is a fighter. Which I think would be really cool because all those games usually are fighting games on their own. So that looks pretty sweet.
That one looks like it's going to be the de facto fighting game for Xbox, at least right now.
Yep. Another game that's huge that's coming out for Xbox is the Elder Scrolls 6, the long-awaited sequel to Elder Scroll. So a lot of people are excited about that.
Yes.
One.
Yeah, and I haven't really been into the Elder Scrolls series. I know what was the one that I've heard the most of that was the most popular was I think the one called Morrowind. Was that 3?
That was I think before Oblivion. That may have been 4.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls Morrowind was like the one I heard the most about, and so announcing a new Elder Scrolls is definitely a big deal.
A prequel is in the work in a classic series, Fallout 76. Where we finally see how kind of this whole thing started with Fallout. And, I mean, Fallout series has been unstoppable with those Pip-Boys that you can get and everything like that. There's even a Fallout game on the Switch that just came out, Fallout Shelter. Kind of a port of a mobile game. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And, of course, every story has an origin, so here it is.
Absolutely. For me, the game that I was looking forward to, the trailer that I got excited for, and the game I cannot wait for to come out is The Division 2. The first Division on Xbox, that's when I played, was out of this world. You played in New York City. Again, it's kind of like this, not post-apocalyptic, but it's more a virus broke out in New York City and just spread like wildfire. What I find funny is that the sanitation department of New York was basically the villains in the game, and knowing people that we know who work for New York Sanitation, I find that hysterical.
And rightfully so. I find it fitting.
And the attention to detail in the Division for New York City. I mean, you're playing through Madison Square Garden. You're playing, your home base is the post office across the street. If you know Manhattan, you can actually navigate extremely well in the Division. That's how down to the points they got. Where when I went to the city after playing the Division, I almost had like a flashback moment. I'm like, wait a minute, I remember having to shoot somebody around here. The Division 2.
Yeah, that's not a good memory to have.
Yeah, it was all by the steps, like that weird where they have all the benches in Times Square over there.
Yes.
The Division 2 is now going to be moving where the outbreak has now spread out across the country, and people are. It's again that whole you have roving groups of people. No, like. There's no infected, like no zombies, nothing like that. But you have those roving group of people trying to, survival of the fittest versus those kind of making their own little communities, trying to survive, trying to survive this outbreak. It takes place in Washington, D.C., so I got to imagine, again, the attention to detail is going to be ridiculous as far as how the city is laid out. If you're familiar with the Division, you're going to have 8-player raids now instead of 4, so that's pretty cool.
Ooh.
And just the multiplayer aspect of the Division 2, where they announced, and they were upfront when they announced, when the Division 2 comes out, there's going to be 3 DLC scenarios or episodes, they call them, and they will all be free. So that's good.
Ooh,
So you don't have to pay to play on
that's
that.
that's the best amount.
Yep. So Division 2, that's my big takeaway from Microsoft. Not the big takeaway, I think, but my big takeaway.
Yep. The biggest takeaway apparently is the one that's I noticed was winning all the awards for most anticipated game or best looking game and everything like that. And I had mentioned it a few minutes ago, and that's Cyberpunk 2077.
Yes, which is actually based on a board game.
And well, it's actually based on a role playing game. It's based on a role playing game from late 80s and early 90s. So Cyberpunk. There were 3 versions of the role-playing game. There was Cyberpunk 2013, which was released in 1988, Cyberpunk 2020 in 1990, and then way later, Cyberpunk V3 in 2005. Now, as a kid, I was too busy playing Dungeons and Dragons, so I really didn't know about the Cyberpunk thing. But it's basically, think of Dungeons and Dragons, but in a punk world. That's exactly what it is. It's just a role-playing game with taking place in like a city with a bunch of different characters, and the character classes are like more I guess more relatable in a way than Dungeons and Dragons. So it's like you can, your character classes are like, you can be a cop, you can be a corporate person, you can be a media, like a newsman or reporter, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So basically it takes place in a city, and they basically took the concept, turned it into this role-playing game, and the trailer for this game was off the charts. I think it was probably the biggest surprise for me, because I haven't really been following up on this. I haven't been following this one at all, because Cyberpunk 2077 was actually announced 6 years ago. It was announced in May of 2012, and the first teaser trailer came out in January 2013. So this game has been in the works for a long time.
It had time to simmer.
It basically had time to simmer, and you know what? I mean, based on the trailer they released at E3, this thing's cooking. This thing's cooking with gas. Looks like it's going to be amazing. My one gripe about it, unfortunately, is that it's first person perspective, and I'm not a big fan of first person perspective games. Yeah, I know, but you know what? I mean, I might have to make an exception for this game because it just looks too damn good.
Yeah, no, that's the one they closed out on as well. Cyberpunk 2077. Good. We talked about music before during Sony. I like that the Cyberpunk music they use in that was really cool as well. Very cyberpunky.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, they use punk music, which made sense.
So, and like I said, there's so many more games from Microsoft. Go check it out. In my opinion, Microsoft, like I said, was the big winner of E3. And really with that, there was no hardware. I'm not going to count the one where Microsoft's saying they're working on it, because I'm sure everyone's working on their next system. Some little tidbits I do want to mention, though, kind of offshoots. Almost like third parties.
Well, before you hit that, just a little quick tidbit. We didn't specifically go into the PC market when we were talking about, we talked about the 3 console systems, but just, to give the PC people some love. A lot of the games that we've been talking about for the consoles are coming out on PC, so that's why we really didn't do a specific segment on PC. So like Assassin's Creed, Battletoads, Dead or Alive, Devil May Cry, Elder Scrolls, Sea of Solitude, like all of these games are coming out on the PC. So you can just look up, the PC list from the E3 coverage as well. But it was a lot of duplicates, which is why we really didn't, set a specific segment for that one.
We don't like personal computers. Let's face facts.
Yes, that is true.
No, you're right.
Yes, and back to your tidbits. I know there's one specifically you want to talk about.
Yeah, there's a couple of offshoots. First of all, I want to mention, I haven't mentioned them in a while, Hyperkin, a lot of their clone systems. a couple which I own.
Yep.
They pre-order is available now for the Retron 77, which is a clone for the Atari 2600. Or 2600?
Yep.
Yeah,
very nice.
Yeah. So that's available. They also had to show, not to play, but to show their Ultra Boy, which is their clone Game Boy, which will play Game Boy Color.
Nice.
It is USB rechargeable. It's got this aluminum casing to it. It looks sweet, so I really can't wait for that to come out. Also, which we mentioned this probably near the beginning of the series when we started doing the podcast. They renamed themselves again, so I don't know what their new name is, but Polymega. They were the company that I originally saw as far as these clone systems, and their idea was modular clonings. So you get the base system, which I'll talk about in a moment, and then you can buy the NES attachment to it, the Super NES, TurboGrafx, Genesis, and the module will play the system, play the cartridge, and will have the controllers. Polymega put out photos of what these modules look like, what their versions of the controllers look like. They look awesome, like the Polymega versions. Even if you don't have original controllers, these Polymega versions are as close to it as possible. And of course, the reason why I first fell in love with Polymega is because they were the first clone system to clone where you can play CD games. And we're talking PS1,
yes,
Sega CD, TurboGrafx CD, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Neo Geo CD. All in the same drive.
Yes. Which is astounding.
Oh, it's awesome! If for no other reason, I'll get it for the CDs. There's no pre-sale yet, no date. Pricing, they were talking about the base unit $249, and then the modules about $60 each, give or take. Sounds about right. Sounds somewhat worth it, in my opinion, or at least for the CD versions of it. And
well, yeah, I'm with you. Like the CD one is the most appealing one out of all of them.
Yep. And hopefully it's like an easy upgrade where they can maybe just throw in like a Saturn or a Dreamcast or something like that. That'd be nice, since it's all the same.
That would be cool.
Thing. Other than that, Hyperkin put out their Duke, which is basically the original Xbox controller for the Xbox One. So if you like that horribly oversized Xbox controller, you can go back to it.
Hey, you know what? Some people love that thing.
And that was really, as far as kind of like the little offshoots, that's what stuck out for me from E3. Yeah,
I felt the same way. Those were the same ones that I noticed as well. So, just a couple of little just a couple of little side notes there, but all very interesting nonetheless.
Absolutely. And with that, just like E3's over, we're going to wrap this one up for our big E3 special. And we'll be back next week, back to the grind to 100. We're almost there. This one doesn't count, but next week's will. And Ant, you'll be back.
Yes.
You'll be in Japan, but you'll be back on the show for the regular segments.
I will be back on the show. I will be joining you from Japan. Yes,
absolutely. So we're looking forward to that. Thank you for joining us here on the E3 2018 special, our special edition of the Retro Gamers. Of course, check us out everywhere, theretrogamers.com. Facebook, look us up. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, look us up. 5-star rating. Instagram, @_RetroGamers. And just type it in, you'll find us. You know what our logo looks like. And buy our merchandise as well while you're at it. All right. And enjoy your trip as you fly to Japan at this point.
Thank you.
And with that,
yep, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully no aftershocks. Fingers crossed.
What happened?
They had a 6.0 earthquake yesterday.
Who?
Osaka.
Japan? Really? I didn't hear. Oh, I didn't know about that. All right.
Yes.
Well, you live in LA.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you know what? Doesn't mean I want to sit through an earthquake. Okay.
Good. Oh man, I hope Super Potato's okay.
Oh no.
Oh, that would. Oh god.
Man.
All right. Tune in to find out.
It became Super French Fry.
Ain't gonna get better than that, folks. Thank you for joining us here this week for our E3 special 2018 here on the Retro Gamers.